Next, we have JP Pellicciaro, hopefully I pronounced that okay, from the Carnegie Mellon School of Design. JP is a design researcher and strategist who loves connecting the dots between people, ideas, and thoughtful action. With a Master of Design from Carnegie Mellon and design research experience in the public, social, and commercial sectors, JP's work aims to foster shared vision and effective collaboration among interdisciplinary and cross-sectional or cross-organizational teams. Their goal is to advocate for and practice design that empowers everyday people to create meaningful, eco-conscious services and systems that promote individual agency, diversity, cooperation, and resilience in their communities. JP thoroughly enjoys good conversation, bicycles, cats, queer folk, the internet, adventures, local veggies, and the people who produce and purvey them. Please join me in welcoming JP to UVM.
Hello, good afternoon. It's really a privilege to be here. I've never been to Burlington before, and it's a beautiful town. And also, I really appreciate the interdisciplinarity of this summit. Some of the themes have really kind of resonated with me in terms of Beth with narratives, systems and subsystems, community building, trying to work out, seemingly conflicting perspectives with what the values that are really behind them. So I really felt that this is inspiring so far, and I hope to contribute to your inspiration. And so I'm hoping that you'll maybe suspend whatever idea you have about design while I talk to you, and hopefully I can expound your perspective on design and make it really applicable to the work that every person's doing in this room. So thanks for your time today. So today I'm going to talk about designing for behavior and culture in local food systems, and essentially talking about the value of and role for design. And so first I'm going to talk about what is design. And I want to start with a premise, which is design is as essential to the human experience as food. Now, before you say, wait a second, I don't believe you, give me a chance. I want to say, basically, there's a guy named Herb Simon who's revered at CMU, and he said, everyone designs, who devises courses of action aimed at changing existing situations into preferred ones. And I think that's what we're all trying to do here today. And that can be world-changing based or person-changing based, and I think they're both important. So devising courses of action we call design interventions. And design interventions are tools, processes, methods that change existing situations into preferred ones. They are based on core design principles, which I'll now share with you. These aren't all of them, but they're pretty much the key design principles that we learn as design practitioners. First, design is human-centered or user-centered in the more tech software world. And being user-centered, it's also context conscious, thinking about environments, motivations, goals, behaviors, what's around us. Design also thinks about the people around us, the relationships, the networks. Design is also story-driven, and it's human agency-oriented, recognizing that there are different paths to reach the same or similar goal. Design is also people empowering. Without that shovel, we'd have to get on our hands and knees and take a lot of time and effort, right, to dig in the dirt. Design is also systems savvy, or what we'll also call holistic, right? Thinking in terms of food systems, thinking about the cycle, thinking about inputs and outputs, thinking about the network of relationships, constraints, policies, right? Thinking about all that stuff. And different design disciplines that incorporate these include information design and visualization, right? So you'd be familiar with infographics, lots of those floating around. This one talks about food miles. Design for human interaction, thinking about tools, products, services that help people, how we interact with those things on a day-to-day basis. And then, IDEO created this, they did some research and said, hey, this is a shopping cart. This should be the shopping cart we all use. I'm not going to go into each of these case studies, but just to give you an idea, there are different design disciplines that incorporate these different core principles I've just talked about. Service design thinks about touch points across a product service ecosystem. Some of you may be familiar with goodeggs.com, which has just 3 touch points. Someone says, hey, I want these things from my local purveyors, and Good Eggs will package and either deliver it or have it waiting for you to pick up. So thinking about those different touch points in service design. Also, participatory design and co-design, really putting the concept in the hands of the user, the group of people, the stakeholders, and working with the designer to form a very user-centric or human-centric product or service or a system. And one of my alum from my program basically created a toolkit by which people could basically say, okay, this is how I would prefer my oven range to be or my kitchen appliance. So really saying, like, here are the pieces, how should it work, right? Now, I'm going to talk about 2 case studies, both from this class that just graduated. My colleague, Christiana Lackner, who looked at CSAs as a service and also thinking about human practice involved in CSA as kind of behavior change. And then also from my research, looking at the more systems level, cross-sectorally, interorganizationally, how are people collaborating, what sort of design tools can support that. So the first case study we're calling human practice-centered design. Human practice-centered design focuses design activities toward reconfiguring everyday human practices, for example, cooking, so that breakdowns in practices become design opportunities. Now, practices have 3 components: meanings, skills, and things or tools. And for example, meanings could be creative time, could be home-cooked meal, eating healthy, working out, what have you. Skills could be knowing what to make, how to prep items, how to cook items, etc. Things or tools include utensils, all the things you've got in your kitchen, whether it be a NutriBullet or a KitchenAid or a spatula. Okay. Now, in terms of CSA, Christiana did her research in Pittsburgh with Penn's Corner Farm Alliance, which is a co-op of farmers, and she basically learned there's a correlation between the length of time that someone is a member in the CSA and the likelihood that that member will stay on year after year. And essentially, around the 2-3 year mark, that likelihood shoots way up and Christiana concluded, hey, this thing, CSA, that people are doing, it's really about human practice. And it's not just that they're buying in, it is, but they also have to change their cooking routines. They have to incorporate it into their weekly schedule to pick up the food, to do the recipe planning, to do the cooking with some weird vegetables that they've never encountered before, right? So she created this ecosystem map thinking about food practices, cooking, picking up all the food, and really discovered in that triangle down there that things like signing up using the CSA website, email reminders, finding the pickup box location, the box contents list, can all be hurdles depending on the person, right? And so focusing on these hurdles can help CSA members and CSA purveyors to actually create a more streamlined interface or kind of a better opportunity for people to incorporate CSA into their day-to-day and week-to-week practice, hopefully, helping the person to choose the following year to do the CSA again and to buy in again. Okay, so Christiana, looking at 4 practices, saying they have 4 characteristics, which are social, personal, embodied, and that they break down. Now, she ended up with this kind of seems a little bit unwieldy of a document. However, essentially, there's a template of this in a Dropbox folder, which I'll share a link with you all too. But basically she said, hey, there are these different layers, and as someone goes along from left to right in the kind of the life cycle of a CSA, if in that middle column where the yellow dots are, if you think about the meanings, the skills, and the things or the tools in each of these phases, then you can help someone and support them in shifting their practice from being, industrial ag grocery store oriented to including CSA or farmer's market or farm stand into their food routines. And out of this, she came up with several different concepts, one of which was a practice community. So what if someone who's been member of CSA for several years could kind of mentor or be a buddy with someone who's newer and help kind of support them along the way. That was just one concept. I won't go into all of them, because I have another case study to share with you, which is what I'm calling community-centered governance design. Now, this is shifting focus of traditional design from the individual user to a community, and it instills design tools into dialogue-based processes, collaborative change specifically. And basically, I conducted 24 interviews in Denver across local businesses, nonprofits, city agencies, other institutions. And in thinking about Denver's local food system, the Denver Office of Sustainability defines it as a 5-component cycle, which is kind of in one way oversimplistic, but production, processing, distribution, access, and waste. And in Denver, there are over 200 actors touching one or more of these components. Now, that's a lot of stuff happening, and I'm sure it sounds like Vermont Farm to Plate, is that what, did I get it right? Has, just as many, if not way more actors than that, right? So it's a complex system, and increasing healthy food access is hard work that involves many actors, limited resources, lots of partnerships, and in the case of many towns and cities, there's not a lot of systems level strategy. Outside of a food policy council, there's kind of an ad hoc network that's going on. The Denver SFPC, which is Sustainable Food Policy Council, is a municipal board and commission, and it looks kind of like this. There's about 26 members with six different city agencies and lots of community representatives from local biz, nonprofits, etc. Thanks. So essentially, the SFPC operates as a community government interface to influence policy, and policies that increase food access emerge from this system. It's pretty complex, and the tools that they use are primarily verbal, right? So because there's so much going on, the conversation often looks like this. It's a little modeled, a little disorganized. Maybe you can identify. And this is where design comes in. This is where I think design can play a role in your work that you're all doing. Whether or not you are working on policy or program or education, if you're working interdisciplinary or across organizations, I think design can help you out. So visual modeling enables food policy council members or people like you to externalize each of their individual perspectives and put it in kind of a common picture map. So this becomes this. Yeah, you like that? Feel free to take a photo. Also, my Twitter handle, which I forgot to mention in the beginning, is @JUROPEL. So feel free to tweet away. Anyhow, so this becomes this, and a dialogue that was misaligned realigns to community needs. Okay, how many want that? Do you all want that? Yay, okay, good. So using a framework that supports the Food Policy Council's long-term process, which I borrowed from Adam Kahane and other kind of strategic management consulting folk, I'm developing a prototype. I got some awesome feedback from some of you, thanks to all who came, and please feel free to talk to me later on. But I'd love to get more feedback from other practitioners, academics, about how it could work in your city or town. So let's zoom out as I wrap this up. I started with this premise that design is as essential to the human experience as food. Do you believe me now? Okay, awesome. Yay. All right, so, and then we want to extend that premise to another one that's saying, hey, if you can produce, purvey, or advocate or teach about local food, then you too can design for local food. You're like, wait a second, nope, I can't. I'm not a designer. But you can too, and I'm going to talk about design considerations, and it's really about asking questions to frame and clarify, and then I'm going to show a bit.ly link to a Dropbox folder, and you can download some templates, send me an email. I'd really love to get feedback so I can iterate this and make it available in a way that actually works for all of you. So first, design consideration. In what context should we influence behavior and culture? And I think this is really key. And in what context should we take a cue from it, right? So before you start to do anything, should I be taking a cue or should I be influencing? And they're kind of, it's interrelated, but really key question to ask. Which way are we going? Where's the power and information flowing, right? So designers first educate themselves rather than assuming what impact can be made. And you can too, and probably are already doing it, right? Design consideration 2. What design principles can you, as a food system stakeholder, introduce or better incorporate into food system projects and programs? Remember, design is user or human-centered, context-aware, story-driven, human agency-oriented, and systems-savvy. Thirdly, design consideration is how might we increase the focus of our food products, services, and programs to be more user-centered? Now, I know a lot of you are already talking to your people, right? But design doesn't just talk to people, but has a system and method for balancing the voice of the user with organizational goals, challenges, and constraints. So really putting the voice of the user out there related to stories, right? How might we approach food projects, events, programs, and even policies from a human practice perspective? So thinking about the meanings, skills, and artifacts or tools that comprise people's everyday practices. And then lastly, how might we approach food systems planning in a way that improves interfaces between communities and governments that serve them? Design enables stakeholder groups to create a shared picture of a dynamic system to efficiently and effectively coordinate partnerships and allocate resources. Now, here's the link. It's bit.ly design, the number 4, food systems. Right now there's 3 documents in there. I might be adding more as I go through the summer. But please try them out. Send me an email. Put in a folder, hey, this is my example. I'd love that. And send feedback to agrifood@multisaf.com. That's agrifood@multisaf.com. Contact me. You can find me there. Thanks so much.